that you know a little bit about the event. We take a text and we look at that, we explore that. The text could be anything from oral history, song, dialogue, performance text. But essentially the evening is to engage with that text as an intellectual exercise. For the next 6 months, what we are thinking of doing is looking at the idea of histories and reclaiming histories. So in that context, we have a very, very special person with us today, Tenzin Tsundue, who is a political activist and a writer. He's got 4 published books. He's the winner of the Outlook Picador Prize for Nonfiction in 2001. And he's much better at introducing himself than anyone else, because the way he does it is wonderful. He tells you things about his life that nobody else can say them. So after his talk, let's ask him to introduce himself again. The idea of today is to look at how personal narrative becomes part of political history. And that's why we have with us Tenzin Tsundue today. Without further yammering, over to you.
எல்லாருக்கும் நமஸ்காரம். என் பேர் டென்சின். நான் மெட்ராஸ்ல காலேஜ்ல 3 வருஷம் காலேஜ் படிச்சிட்டு So welcome all of you. Thank you for coming. Tashi Deleg. Tashi Deleg is how we greet in Tibetan language. It's a conversation, but it must start with a monologue, because for too long Tibetans have been written about, spoken about, argued. Their histories were written by different people. Country was plundered by different people. Tibetan people could never speak. And within the Tibetan community, we have been thinking that this is our karma to suffer. Within ourselves, we've been thinking perhaps this is what we have to endure because of our past, number of lives we lived. Perhaps there may be a better time in the future. But most importantly, we've been thinking, without an amazing challenge in life, what is life meant for? So therefore, whatever the Tibetans are undergoing today, we've been thinking But we are fortunate, we have such a big enemy who is challenging America and who is ruling on our country, threatening the very survival of the Tibetan people, our religion and culture. And sometimes we think we deserve such an enemy to challenge our compassion, our courage, all the things we talk about within the community. But today's story is not about Tibet, it's about Tibetan people and most importantly, the exile minds. Who is an exile? What is exile? What has it got to do with the Tibetan people? 10 minutes ago, I was talking to the Dasgupta's family, and they were showing me a picture of His Holiness the Dalai Lama arriving in India as a refugee, and their father escorted His Holiness the Dalai Lama from the jeep trail onto a train which took them from Darjeeling all the way to Mussoorie, Dehradun and then Mussoorie. So this is the beginning of the Tibetan story. When I was little, I was in Karnataka, not in Dharamsala, not anywhere. I was in Karnataka. In southern Karnataka, there is a district called the Chamarajanagar district, and there is a small place called Kollegal. In Kannada, we say Kollegala. Kollegal. So Kollegal is a small place, and further down from Kollegal towards Coimbatore, on the borders between Tamil Nadu and Karnataka, there is this thick village, like a jungle called the Satyamangalam jungle. On the outskirts of that jungle is our camp. My parents lived there. So when I was living in that jungle Tibetan refugee camp, having been lived in the Tibetan community and never seen the world outside, when Indian neighbors, when they came in to sell idlis to us, I used to ask my mother, this little boy, where are these Indians coming from? Why are they here? Not knowing, we are the ones who have been uprooted from Tibet and coming to deep south of Karnataka, and I was asking, but we loved the idlis. Because the Tibetan food, it's bland and mostly steamed and overcooked. And so when idli walas came in, we all rushed out of our houses and swarmed around the idli seller woman. And she hurriedly gave us idli, two idlis together, knowing that although these kids do not have money, but their parents will come for their rescue. My grandmother was an amazing storyteller. She was a storehouse of stories. She told us stories of snow mountains, yaks, sheep, and grasslands of Tibet. And I, as a little boy, in the heat of Karnataka jungle, I don't know, but I believed her stories. Stories of snow mountains. I could never see in Karnataka, but I believed that there is this wonderful country called Tibet, where there are snow mountains and yaks and sheep. And that's how I first learned about Tibet. And this is how I became Tibet. My grandmother used to train us in playing skipping games and playing the 5-stone game called Atto. We used to play these. There are 5 stones. We play like this and drop it, pick it up one by one, and say chik chema chik chesho ni chema ni chesho. This is how we were learning both the language as well as singing this. While we were being trained in skipping games, The skipping games are for both boys and girls together. So the games, while the girls were skipping, we were jumping in the middle, and all of us, we sing. So the singing would go on, Sisi si mama chele ho, mache ko la ye go jigya, chamu go la ye go jigya, kora ye go dana ye go chuko chagidu. So we were learning singing from grandparents. And this is how we became Tibetan, started to learn about Tibet, the country. They were very sad to tell us this is the country we had to leave behind. And this is the country they left behind, and how they came, And later, I think around second standard, I was taken to Himachal for my further studies, for third standard. And while there, I think the first political awareness started to happen. Our teachers used to say that there is an R on our forehead. R meaning refugees. Our teachers used to say that we are all born refugees. We are refugees, we have lost the independence of our country. We are living here at the sympathy of India. And one day, ultimately, eventually, we'll have to go back to our own country. But that our refugee was never anything derogatory or sad or suffering in the way how refugees, the idea of refugee being understood in the West, especially in Europe today. It was a very inspiring moment. Our teachers used to say, being a refugee means there is an opportunity, there's a great chance to become freedom fighters, that we all can become Gandhijis, we all can become Bhagat Singh and Subhash Chandra Bose, we all can become freedom fighters. They said this is an opportunity to do work for our country. Not just work for your money, for your name, for your family, work for our country. So we were all very excited. And at that time, a film was shown to us on a video. A film called Kranti. I don't know how many of you have seen this film called Kranti? Yeah, can you see? Kranti, how many of you have seen this Kranti? Amazing melodramatic film about Indian freedom struggle. So there's Prem Chopra, there's Shashi Kapoor, there's Manoj Kumar, Shatrughan Sinha, all of them. Dilip Kumar, yeah, with a long gun. Yeah. So we were shown this. We were very excited. We all want to join the freedom struggle. We all want to be fighters. But R on our forehead, we couldn't see. But we also saw Superman comic books. So I said, oh, we have R on our forehead. And the moment you close your Superman comic books, he is gone. But we are alive. There are too many. So that R, as a writer, I continued to think about it. And then I wrote a poem one day about that word, that letter, R, and what it meant. It says, when I was born, my mother said, you are a refugee. Our tent on the roadside smoked in the snow. On your forehead, between your eyebrows, there is R and embossed, my teacher said. I scratched and scrubbed on my forehead, I found a brash of red paint. I am born refugee. I have 3 tongues. The one that sings is my mother tongue. The R on my forehead, between my English and Hindi, the Tibetan tongue reads Ramzan. Freedom means Ramzan. So in one poem, I changed my identity from English language R, refugee, to Tibetan language R, Ramzan. Now you know one Tibetan word, Ramzan. Azadi. So when my parents' generation, when they first came from Tibet, because they were coming out of Tibet for the first time, they had never seen the outside world. They didn't know any of the Indian languages. And India was too hot for them. These are the people who live 4,000 meters above sea level, behind the Himalayas. And civilizationally, they have never come out of Tibet. So thousands of people died in the heat of summer in India. So government of India rehabilitated them, gave them the work to do road construction work. Understanding that they may find it difficult to go down south, they were given the road construction work in the Himalayas. So from Ladakh, Himachal, Uttarakhand, even in Sikkim, they were doing road construction work. And my mother tells me that I was born in Lahore Valley, on a roadside, in a tent. And this is the poem that I was writing. So in the refugee camp, because now we started to grow maize, makai, corn. And after the harvest, we all gathered on the farm and we used to light a bonfire in the middle. And they were very resourceful. People used to bring food from their own homes and also cham. Do you know the idea of cham? Cham is this fermented rice or barley or wheat or even mostly ragi, millet, fermented, and the juice out of that is the ale. That's called cham in Tibetan. So they were all drinking cham and having food from it. And all the villagers came together around the bonfire and they were started to dance. And this circle dance, group dances, what the Tibetans were doing. And this is how we saw the dance performance. And we, the kids, we moved around the elders and also learned the first Tibetan steps. They were saying the country that they left behind, up in the Himalayas, high on the mountains, where they would sing to the mountains and the echo, they could hear the echoes. So I also started to take interest in this singing to the mountains. And while singing, because your heart is full, there is so much of joy, and you are singing to the mountains, and mountains echo the songs back to you. You are singing auspicious songs, and they raise this staff, the white staff, to mean the purity of their motivation. They raise the staff like this, and then start to sing. So it is this singing, it is this Tibetan dance. Slowly we were getting to understand. Even though born in India, we were becoming Tibetans. And in the heart of our own Tibetans, there's so much of gratitude to the Indian people and the country who had given us shelter when we were being thrown out of our own country, and people who had to stay behind in Tibet, live behind, continue to be in Tibet, they were under torture and detention and so much of suffering going on. So the life that we were able to rebuild here. Now, when we say exile mind, exile is someone who is uprooted from homeland, came to a foreign country with the hope that one day they will be able to go back to their own country, but at the moment not able to go back because there is immediate threat and danger to their lives. And not only the present, the future looks bleak. Even India hesitates to take on to China, even though there are dangers on northeast and Ladakh and many other places. So exile is a trap where you got uprooted, you're unable to root in here, and the future looks bleak. That the exile mind, where you are restless all the time, where you keep on, you are having to think about your livelihood, especially the older generation. They have to constantly think about the younger generation. How do we feed them? How do we give them a better future? What education will they receive? The older ones, they live in the past. They live in the memory, the homeland they left behind. They live in the past. They're here, but they live in the past. The younger ones, who have no real memory of Tibet, they have a borrowed memory from the elder ones. But they live not now. They do not live in the past. They live in the future. A future possible for Tibet when they would go home. So both the elder and the younger generation live in Tibet, one in the past, one in the future. Both of them are absent here. It's a funny, poetic life that we seem to be living here. But reality is this. Reality is this, where we are. And here we seem to say, okay, let us make do with what is here, what is available. And I realize that exile is such a fertile mind. They are easy to adapt, learn different languages and cultures and systems. And very often when I meet my Indian friends, when I go to their homes, I touch their feet and get blessings from elder ones. I'm most willing to do this. So we learn. Exile is a fertile mind, because exile, you don't own anything. You have to constantly adapt. And in the readiness of the adaptation, you are creative. Today, most of the Tibetan refugees speak at least 4 Indian languages. And I know many of my Indian friends, they do not go beyond their Kannada family or Tamil family or Gujarati or Marathi or Punjabi or whatever family that you are. They do not go beyond this. So it is not the greatness of the Tibetans. It's the greatness of this exile, fertile mind where you are ready to adapt and learn and co-opt and see, how do I survive today? But if you actually go to some of the Tibetan refugee camps in Bailakupe or Kollegal or in Dharamshala, I see that most of them seem to have this mind that we are here for some time. So it seems as if our life is postponed. We are living a postponed. The garden you want to have perhaps is going to be in future. The car that you want to own is going to be perhaps in future. So we seem to be living this. But at the same time, somehow the poet feels that the houses or the farmland in Bailakupe, some of you must have been to Bailakupe Tibetan refugee camp. It seems that everything is so well settled. So the poet fears that we may get settled down here and we may forget to go home. It will be such a tragedy if the Tibetan refugees settle here and forget to go home. So there is a fear. So out of this fear, I am writing this poem called Exile House. In this, I am using a Tibetan word called changma. Now, changma is a vegetative plant, mid-height tree, flexible, bends, but do not crack or do not break in the rain, thunder showers, or in storms. So changma. Our tiled roof drips, and the 4 walls threatened to fall apart. But we were to go home soon. So we grew papayas in front of our house, chilies in the garden, and changmas for our fences. Then pumpkins rolled down the cowshed patch. Calves trotted out of the manger. Grass on the roof, beans sprouted and climbed down the vines. Money plants crept in through the window. Our house seems to have grown roots. The fences have grown into a jungle. Now, how can I tell my children where we came from? There's a fear that we are settling and we may forget our own story. Here's another poem. And this is about I'm sure many of you have been to Dharamshala. And Dharamshala, the latest report, there is a terrible rain going on in Dharamshala. So much rain. There are, at many small pockets of the places, there are landslides. And the room where I live in Dharamshala is an old British bungalow. And we are five friends, we live together in a former kind of a commune. We all chip in to pay our room rents. The landlady and their family, they live in Delhi, so we take care of the house. So this is the story of that house. If you ever come to Dharamshala, you should come. And if you're not yet come to Dharamshala, you should come during the rainy season. Why? Because Dharamshala is more beautiful during rainy seasons. Not for the rains. It is in between the rains when the rains have stopped, when the sky is clear and blue. And from the height of McLeodganj, you could see whole Kangra Valley in minute details. Further down, far into the plains of Kangra Valley, you could see small houses, dotted green roof, and somewhere there's whiff of smoke going on. And in between the stretch of pinewood forest, there are small stretches of road where HRTC buses come in and vanish into the forest. And further down, you could see Kangra Valley, and then Pong Lake. There's a lake in Dharamshala, which you got to see only during rainy season because the sky is clear. Otherwise, the smog that we get from Punjab and Haryana, we don't get to see the lake. Only during rainy season. And further down, beyond the lake, you could see the small rivulets feeding into the lake. And this is only half the scenario. You need to turn and look up into the mountains, the Himalayas, majestic Doladar mountain range, snow peak mountains, first layer. Second layer, rocky, giant, fierce mountains. Then the Deodar and the Cheel trees. Then of course in McLeodganj you also get to see TV towers and dish antenna and all of that. But you should, if you ever plan to come to Dharamshala during rainy season, I have an advice. The advice is, do not come there with cheap Chinese umbrellas. So much, बहुत बारिश पड़ता है उधर, तो these cheap Chinese umbrellas, they go textures, like tissue paper बन जाए. आपको चाहिए जलंधर का छाता. So this is my advice. So here's the poem. It's called When It Rains in Dharamshala. बहुत बारिश, and it's for three months. And sometimes it continues to rain for 3 days. And sometimes we forget there's something called sunny day. So the poem says, when it rains in Dharamshala, raindrops wear boxing gloves. Thousands of them come crashing down and beat my room. Under its tin roof, my room cries from inside and wets my bed, my papers. Sometimes the clever rain comes from behind my room. The treacherous walls lift their heels and allow a small flood into my room. I sit on my island nation bed and watch my country in flood. Notes on freedom, memoirs of my prison days, letters from college friends, crumbs of bread and Maggi noodles rise straight to the surface, like a sudden recovery of a forgotten memory. 3 months of torture. Monsoon in the needle-leaved pines. Himalaya, rinsed clean, glistens in the evening sun. Until the rain calms down and stops beating my room, I need to console my tin roof, who has been on duty from the British Raj. This room has sheltered many homeless people. Now captured by mongooses and mice, lizards and spiders, and partly rented by me. A rented room for a home is a humbling existence. My Kashmiri landlady at 80 cannot return home. So we often compete for beauty. Kashmir or Tibet. Every evening I return to my rented room. But I'm not going to die this way. There has got to be some way out of here. I cannot cry like my room. I have cried enough in prisons and in small moments of despair. There has got to be some way out of here. I cannot cry. My room is wet enough. So, from the life of this refugee child in the Tibetan refugee school, after doing all the thing about art, we were inspired by our teachers. Our teachers said, we have not lost our country. We have lost our freedom to live in our country. Our country is still there and is one of the most beautiful countries in the world. And one day we will go there. So we were asking, but what can we do? We are just students. We are so very little. What can we do in the freedom movement? So teachers said, we win not by destroying others. We win by empowering ourselves. So asking, what does it mean? What does it mean? A lot of muscle, we can do something, exercise. They said, no. Firstly, in order to be empowered yourself, you have to be physically healthy, emotionally balanced, and spiritually inspired. If you are spiritually inspired, no one can discourage you. You are always inspired. No negativity, you're always inspired. And over that, if you have little education, we can be such powerful people that no one can rule over us. I thought, that's a magic education. So I grew up with this enthusiasm. Strangely, we were also shown Jackie Chan Kung Fu karate films. Now look at this. We all were dreaming to be freedom fighters. After watching Jackie Chan Kung Fu karate films, we all come down into the basketball court and we all learn who, somersaults and everything. Well, hoping we are all going to be freedom fighters. Once school time was over, it did not take much time to understand the reality. In the school we were told that the world doesn't know about Tibet, so we need to educate the world. If they know, they will support us. But it didn't take much time to understand. That is not that the world doesn't know. The world knows too well, and they are all playing their own games. The CIA was playing their own games. China, Japan, India, everybody is playing their own games. And if we are not able to take care of ourselves, we will never be able to stand on our feet. And this hard reality, the education, something on the United Nations, but because it's in America's pockets, it's in China's pockets. There's no United Nations. The people who are downtrodden and beaten and tortured, they have no United Nations. United Nations it's in the pockets of all this. So this hard reality, the education was, I think, the real eye-opening for all the younger generation Tibetans. And what if we educate ourselves and take care of ourselves, this is the way forward. And then a big propaganda, they started to come together on us, that we are all peaceful, nice and non-violent Tibetans and all of that. My father was a Kampa warrior. He fought the Chinese. And after coming in exile, he died in exile. So I wrote this poem called Betrayal. Very short one. It says, my father died defending our home, our village, our country. I too wanted to fight, but we are Buddhists. People say we should be peaceful and non-violent. So I forgave my enemy. But sometimes I feel I betrayed my father. We are trying to make sense of what is this thing called freedom. Is this freedom just the absence of China going out of Tibet? Does that make Tibet free and independent? And then freedom started to mean much more personal to me. Freedom is also, personally, how do you free yourself from your own dangers that you inflict on yourself? So first, we are constantly listening to the Buddhist teachings given by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. And the fear of going to Tibet. And after my graduation, one day I decided that I should go to Tibet, where there is danger, and free myself from the fear of being killed. So I went. After my BA from Madras, I went to Ladakh, taught English in a Tibetan school for a year, found my secret ways to go into Tibet, crossed the border at 4,000 meters above sea level, Ladakh-Tibet border, crossed into Tibet where there was no man's land. But as idealistic and romantic I looked at the time, my path right up to the border was okay. I was able to cheat Indian security, basically for some time. But I got arrested once I was inside. My planning did not work. The people I was supposed to meet at the border were not there. I was 22. And at 22, especially the older ones, at 22 you can I can take on the world, So that's what I did. I crossed the border, I got arrested, I was blindfolded, beaten, tortured, thrown into jail, deprived of food, water. And because I was on my secret mission impossible, like I'm going into Tibet to fight China and I'll be, that kind of thing. After being arrested inside Tibet, because I did not tell anyone from outside, I got thrown into jail, and that was the most scariest moment in my life. My classmate Murli is here. We studied together in Madras. He's here in the ground, there. So my friend Murli and many other friends, they were having this discussion among themselves. Shall we do a campaign? Our classmate Tenzin has got arrested in Tibet. How do we get his release? By then, I had already spent 3 months in jail. It was most difficult moment. Most difficult moment, not because there was little food or torture or beating or anything. I received a lot of beatings, but these were not the danger. Most difficult moment was living in uncertainty. They never tell you what they were going to do, what is going to happen to you, where they will take you. They never say anything to you. They will keep you in dark. And there's no support whatsoever. They find everything that you know. And push to the point that they will constantly say, every interrogation, they'll say, we are going to shoot you to death, or you will rot in prison. There's no other way. So there is a fear of death on your head every day, and there is no support whatsoever. So in the gnawing uncertainty, you seem to be killing yourself every day. So this torture in the mind was the most difficult moment, being in prison. And these days, I'm an activist. I've been arrested in so many places. If some of you know, in the year 2005, when Chinese Prime Minister Wen Jiabao came here, someone climbed up to the ISE building. There was me. I climbed up to the ISE building a night before. Spent the entire night in the room, in the tower. Came out of the balcony the next day in the afternoon at 2:30 and laid out my Free Tibet banner. I was able to draw this attention to Tibet. Basically, I was saying, Wen Jiabao, you get a lot of media attention. I'm going to talk about Tibet anyway. So people remember that incident, but they do not know it was me. That is not important. What is important is that Bangaloreans remember that incident, because that was about Tibet. So like that, I've done many other protests. I've been to jail 15 times. So these days, when I get arrested by Indian police, I'm saying, so many of them like, "ठीक से बोलो, नहीं तो तुम्हारा ये कर देगा, वो कर देगा." Then I say, "Sir, I went to Tibet. The Chinese tortured me. I'm trained by the Chinese. In Goa, I got arrested when the BRICS summit was happening in Goa. I was outside this thing called Taj Exotica, big palatial, hotel. I was able to do this protest, and after my protest, I was carrying this the Tibetan national flag. I drew out this flag, and I was saying, only this, free Tibet. And this was right in front of a huge motorcade. And there was a lady commander. She was furious. And was saying, free Tibet. I mean, this is all they wanted to do, just free Tibet. That's it, nothing. I'm not coming here with guns or anything. I'm not interested. I'm coming here. Free Tibet, okay, free Tibet. Okay, free Tibet, cars win. I said, Alada, finish Munjiche. Yeah, you understand Tamil, yeah? Alada, Munjiche. Finish. And then she came down, grabbed me from her, literally lifted me out of this. And then got arrested. So I was taken to the police station. So there was the SHO. So she was saying, "Batao, baki, tumhare saath baki kitne log hai?" I said, "Sir, I did it on my own. I was alone." ठीक जैसे बताओ मैं तुम ये कर देगा वो कर देगा सर अगर आप मुझे डांटना है तो डांटो लेकिन but I'm telling you what I really happened, what I really did. I went on my own. So he was very angry. He thought that I was hiding something. I was hiding names of other people who must have been with me. And then he said, "Sir, for the past 3 days, I did not eat a morsel of food. For the past 2 days, I didn't drink even a gulp of water. And for the past 20 hours, I was hiding in that kitchen, in that mud. For 20 hours, I was hiding so that I could come out and do my free Tibet. Tell me one person who can do this. Then I'll tell you the name." I said, "Pagal hai." I said, "Exactly, I'm pagal. Therefore, I did it alone. No one can come with me." Then I said, "Look at the nicely polished shoes of your police officers. Would they ever go into the mud to look for me? No, they won't. This is my freedom. I have this freedom deep in my mind, not minding the marsh, not minding the hundreds of insects crawling all over my body. I was muddied from here down, all muddied. I was hiding in the mud for 20 hours. I had insect bites all over my body. This is the freedom I found. Because I do not mind the pain and the dirt and whatever discomfort. I don't mind. Today I feel free because I can be anywhere. So therefore, in childhood, I used to think Tibet is home. Later, I started to think, where my parents are in Karnataka, that's my home. Later, I thought, oh, the hostel where I stayed is my home. Now, I don't have to have a house to feel home. Wherever I go, I feel home. So my home seemed to be where I am. My idea of home is my work, is my mind. So the idea of home kept on changing. Of course, I still would want a home in Tibet. But I'm homely anywhere, wherever I go. So the idea of home and the idea of freedom. Because I've been able to go to so many jails, I felt the real idea of home, a personal freedom, is not outside where we usually think, "Hum to azad hain, jo bhi karna hai kar sakte hain." You can feel. No, the real freedom is the way we push our personal boundaries of discomfort. The more you push it, the more comfort you feel, even in the moments of perceptually discomfort, uneasiness. Be able to cross those and expand it. Our moments of easiness, it's expanded, you feel more and more free, and therefore there you find real freedom. So I found freedom in the jail, not outside. I'll read one last poem, then of course we'll have time to talk and discuss. write poetry when I was in Bombay. I have my friend Anu and Radha is there. Bombay is the place where I went after my MA. Sorry, for my MA, after my Tibet adventure. So that was the time when I was in a personal crisis. That I'd gone to Tibet, but the Indian intelligence officers who were after me, they were telling us, don't tell anyone that you've been to Tibet. And they kept on coming to meet me, to say, chai ke pila. So I used to go with them for chai, and they used to ask me more and more questions. What did you see? Did you see a bridge? Did you see a railway? Did you see a bridge? Did you see a highway? Did you see how many cantonments? I don't remember or see anything. I didn't have basically any further detail other than what I had already said to him. But he kept on coming and said, don't talk to anyone. So look at this. I had just undergone 3 months of torture in Chinese jail. 1 more month in Indian jail in Ladakh. They thought that I must have been sent back with a, brainwashed mind. They thought, so therefore I was in Indian jail for 1 more month. 4 months of continuous not having a bath also. Then went to Bombay University, and there I couldn't tell my classmates what had happened to me. So I was in this personal crisis. And that was the time when some of my classmates started to write poetry, and we used to compete with each other, writing clever lines. And then I fell in the company of what is called the Bombay poets. Arundhati Subramaniam, Jerry Pinto, Prabhanjan Mishra, Derek Antau, Ranjit Hoskote, and our boss was Nissim Iskil. I was very fortunate that at the time these stalwarts of Indian writers in English, Don Moraes, Arun Kolarkar, Dilip Chitre, Arvind Krishna Malhotra, Adil Jasawala became my mentor. So these are the people I started to learn, listen to them. And one of my first lines was, I was saying about identity, about my face. I said, I'm more of an Indian, except for my cheeky Tibetan face. Because everywhere, people used to call me, hey, Ching Chong Ping Pong, hey, hey, Badur. And these days, now, hey, Momo. In Delhi, once it happened, in the metro, there were 4 boys standing together, because usually boys huddle together. They are the ones who kind of impose their things on others. So they were saying, hey, Ching Chong. So usually I don't get time to put up a fight. So I went to them, shook one person's hand, and said, "Yena venu." அப்படியா உங்களுக்கு தமிழ் தெரியல நான் ஹிந்தி பாஷையில பேசுறேங்க आप कुछ कह रहे थे and they were a little embarrassed and then I thought oh it's a moment for some education अरे आपको पता नहीं है मोदी साहब बोल रहे हैं कि ये पूरा अखंडित भारत 125 करोड़ की आबादी है और हमारे चेहरे तो पूरा I was speaking really loud so the rest of the people could also get my भाषण So लद्दाख से मणिपुर तक हमारे जैसे तो बहुत सारे हम सब भारतीय हैं और आप तो अपने लोगों को पराया बना रहे हैं I was doing this natak in the metro, on the train. So I was making everybody hear, यार जितना इंडियन आप है उतना तो हम भी हैं हम शुद्ध हिंदी में भाषा बात कर रहे हैं आपको So sometimes we do this theater, even in public places. So I'm coming back to the poem that I wrote. And one of the first lines in Bombay, I was writing, the Tibetan in Mumbai likes to flip through the midday, the tabloid magazine, newspaper. The Tibetan in Mumbai likes to flip through the midday, loves FM, but doesn't expect a Tibetan song. We don't expect, but by saying we don't expect, it's okay. And this is a poem I wrote because we were able to go to some of the people's homes in the afternoons, especially rich people's homes, for poetry readings in what is called the high teas and early summer. go to readings. And at the time, I didn't have a place to stay. I was staying in friends' homes, like 3 months in Amboli, another 1 month in Charbangla, and 2 months in Borivali, and then Nalasopara, and Bagbe, many different places. So I thought, when I went to these houses, they have big, luxurious couches. And I felt saying, you have such a nice couch. Can I stay here? I felt like saying, but obviously it will be not good to ask them directly, can I stay? No, it's not good. Yeah. So I thought that sentiment is very nice. It's a very poetic sentiment. So I thought I should write a poem about it. So I wrote a poem, a proposal, to say, can I stay in your house? And I made 20 handwritten copies. Gave it to 20 rich friends who had big houses. I'll tell you the results later. I'll read the proposal first. So the proposal says, this is for architecture of the house, this is quite disastrous. It says, pull your ceiling halfway down and you can create a mezzanine for me. Your walls open into cupboards. Is there an empty shelf for me? Let me grow in your garden with your roses and prickly pears. I'll sleep under your bed and watch TV in the mirror. Do you have an ear on your balcony? I'm singing from your window. Open your door. Let me in. I'm resting at your doorstep. Call me when you're awake. Now. So later, look at the audacity of the poet. He goes up to some of the friends and asks them, did you consider my proposal? And my friends usually say, what proposal? Arey, that proposal I gave you in the form of a poem. Did you consider? They were saying, oh, I thought it was just a poem. A very short poem. Usually we say, don't lend your ears to the poets. They'll never let you go. So this is definitely my last. It's a short poem. This is about journey in life. We keep on seeing horizons. Maybe a degree first, maybe the first job, and then first girlfriend, or maybe marriage, and the first bacha, and then horizons, Chitij. So it's a poem called Horizon. From home you have reached the horizon here, from here to another, here you go. From there to the next to the next. Horizon to horizon, every step is a horizon. Count the steps and keep the number, pick the white pebbles and funny strange leaves, mark the curves and cliffs around, for you may need to come home again. So, now because we can just
check with you, how did you manage to come out of the prison?
I wish I could come out on my own. I was thrown out.
Why? They thought you must be an Indian spy, so after torturing you...
after 3 months of all the torture and many hours of interrogation, one of the sessions was, they were asking me, who sent you? What weapons are you carrying? What part of the spy mission were you to play? Who went before you? Who's coming after you? And are you carrying any chips in your wrists or in your neck? They were literally checking. I was feeling little. So I was saying, no, I didn't do anything. I came on my own. So they couldn't believe that someone who has no training, has no knowledge whatsoever would come in just like that. So then they asked, after many hours of interrogation, they said, okay, in frustration, so tell us what did you do in the last 3 years? I said, I studied BA English Literature from Loyola College, Madras. Moli. So they were saying, what does it mean? Oh, that means I studied Keats, Shelley, Byron, Rabindranath Tagore, Robert Frost, Rabindranath Tagore, Subramaniam Bharati. What's this? What is? But these are some of the most important English writers in the world and also in India. And you were saying you did just this? Well, it's quite much. English literature. Yeah, right? We were troubled with all the exams and all of this. That's quite much why I studied. They were not impressed. In fact, they were disappointed that someone who studied only poetry came to Tibet thinking that he's going to free Tibet. And their senior officers in Lhasa, they were very curious to meet this person who studied only poetry to came for the to fight for the freedom of Tibet. They said, "Ye namuna Lhasa le kya?" So I was in Ladakh Tibet border. I was brought all the way to Lhasa in a police car. 3 days of journey all across the expanse western part of Tibet. So in Lhasa, same interrogation, same question. And I think they thought that they made a mistake by bringing in this unimportant possible spy. And one day they came in with this information. So, what does your sister do in Dharamshala? I said, she is a nurse in Dharamshala. And she gets 4,300 rupees as salary. I said, I didn't know. You seem to know too much more than me. They have informers from Dharamshala. So basically they knew everything. So only after coming to India, then I understood, when I was being interrogated by what's called the Joint Interrogation Committee, there I understood what had happened to me. They were telling me that there is a pact between the Indian border police and the Chinese border police that anyone who crosses the border without permission can be detained, arrested, interrogated for a minimum period of 3 months. And if the person is found guilty of having done any damage or destruction, the person can be further interrogated. And if there is nothing against the person should be sent back. But the Indian joint interrogation officers, they were shocked to see me in one piece. Because they were saying they had never seen anyone who vanished into Tibet and come back. Why? I was saying, why? It's natural. If you didn't do anything, you should be sent back. They said at the time of interrogation, many times they are beaten, tortured, marks of torture appear on their face and body parts, and in order to hide these evidences, they are killed. And I was a rare case of a person emerging out of Tibet after 3 months. So therefore, there was a joint interrogation composing a number of commissioners and higher officers. 12 people were interrogating me in English and in Hindi and also in Tibetan, in Ladakh, on the Tibet border. So this is how I understood that I did not come back. I was thrown out. And so they were asking me, but how come you were not tortured? I was. There was one moment of time where the Chinese interrogation officer who acted like this is full booted with leather boots, with goggle glasses. It's like one big bulging eye looking at me. I couldn't see his eyes. With a cigarette. So he would trot around like this. And he would say, Tsundue. Then he would mean my name, Tsundue. So he didn't know how to say Tsundue. So he would say, Tsundue. And then he spatters into Chinese. I don't know what he was saying. And in between, he would say one word, which I remember even today, after 25 years. He would say, Zimaya. I don't know what Zimaya actually means, but he was saying with his great style, Zimaya. And I was like, and he said that he has a translator. Chinese officer who could translate to me in English. I was happy that I could perhaps speak better through this translator to the officer. And this Chinese translator has an English which is like our KG class or class 1 to English, that kind of thing. You, Hindu, coming, border, he was struggling to speak English to me. And this army officer was, was walking around like that with great style, making a speech for 5 minutes. And this officer could say to me only like a couple of words. And this army officer getting more and more angry. And now look at the game. There are these Chinese officers who are trying to interrogate me, and their onlookers, all of them were Tibetans. Now the Tibetans were having a great sense of pride. Our Tibetan speaks better English than the Chinese one. Because they could see that at least there is fluency. My Loyola College English, there was fluency. But an officer like you, Hindu, so there was this. So the Tibetans were happy, not because I was winning or anything, but because the army officer said, "I'm going to bring a translator. You Tibetans, perhaps the translation not happening too well." So this was what's happening. So when he got extra angry, he went furious, and then he suddenly drew out one iron rod, which was kept in the red hot coal fire. He drew that out, and he was threatening to poke my eyes with that. I was like, and then one Tibetan officer came, grabbed him from back behind, and pushed him aside, and kicked me. I went tumbling, and then said, "If you have nothing to say, go." I think that man saved me. If there was any mark on that day, I would have been killed. And the world wouldn't have known. And today I'm telling this story perhaps because of that man. And however difficult the situation is, that even though Tibetans were working under Chinese, there is still kuch hota.
But I'd like to highlight that there's a book called Spies on the Roof of the Mountain by Sidney Vignon. And that covers Himalayas clandestine mission there in the mid-50s, where they
Is
warned
there
them.
anyone else with a question for Sundu? Then and then come.
Hi, Sundu. My name is Tejasvi, and I really enjoyed your interaction with us today. I also found it quite, reassuring in some ways because I could actually follow the places you're talking about. I did research with the Sarega community in DRL, so I know where Kolkata is. My parents are from Coimbatore.
Can you switch on the mic?
My parents live in Coimbatore. I worked in Ladakh for about a month and a half. I couldn't wait longer. And I was in Dharamshala last year, and I was at the Tibetan Museum. And this year I did a Tibetan workshop where we had 2 young women who live in Dharamshala and work at the Tibetan community. They're Tibetan Indians. They said I can compliment. So I really enjoyed following all of those little pieces of my memory through your talk. Sindhu, I am very worried about climate change. And I know that from all the parts of you, and I also went to Stella Maris.
Oh, Stella Maris.
Yes. So, through your speech, I know that you live in places and you live in communities that are affected by climate change in many different ways. Not in the apocalyptic way that movies want it to be, but in small ways. Like I know about the yak economy and yak growing community in Ladakh that is very much affected by climate change. And in the mainstream media, we're still waiting for it to affect us. In the cities, in Mumbai, right? So I would like for you to shed some light on it from your experiences.
Okay.
From your
And before I answer that, some of the people are leaving. I have this book of poems that I read from here. This is a book of poems and stories I read out from. I'm selling this for 50 rupees.
Yeah,
This is perhaps the cheapest poetry book you will find in India. And also because this is eco-friendly, this is recycled, eco-friendly paper inside, second-hand hand, and also with 2 stitches in the middle.
I'm giving you the old 50 rupees.
Yeah. So I'm going to keep this here while I answer questions. So if in case you like, you can take a copy. Leave 50 rupees here. Kuncho, come here. He can help you sell. Okay. So about ecology, about environment. My experience when I was in Dharamshala in school, we used to get this much of snow every winter, and we used to play snowballs with Indian tourists. And they used to take pictures of us. We were very happy, and they used to give us toffees. Today in Dharamshala, we hardly get any snow. The upper regions of Dhuladhar mountain range used to be entirely covered by snow throughout the year, in those years. I'm talking about right up to 1993. Entire top mountains were covered, Ilaka. Today, the snow lasts for about from January, February, March. By the time it is May, it's all melted. And even in Mekrargarh, we hardly get any snow. So there is global warming is there, and Bangalore is an evidence because of water scarcity. It's happening at so many places. My personal experience and my personal sharing is, I think the world today is driven by greed. We are consuming far too much than what is needed. And very often we point our fingers at the industries. Industries are under pressure from our demands. How many pairs of shoes we have, how many clothes we have, how much of things we buy every day, with or without needs. So we have, every individual has a personal responsibility to this. Of course, we can always blame the governments, countries, corporate companies, and G20, COP21, whatever. We can always blame. But there is something we, every individual, can do. And I'm saying this because I try this in my personal level. Therefore, I'm able to say, if I had not been practicing, I couldn't have been saying this. My practice is that I have minimalized, simplified my life into 2 pairs of clothes. I have 2 shirts, 2 jeans. I wear them in turns, and my budget is 100 rupees for 2 years. I buy second-hand jeans. My budget is 250 rupees. And this jeans must serve me for 2 years. So wherever you see me, some of my friends there, Supri there, some of friends, you see me only in one dress. And most of my friends say, they do not know I have 2. I have 2 shirts and 2 jeans. I wear them in turns. And on a travel like this, the other pair is there in Dharamshala. Because sometimes it gets dirty. I wash them in the night and wear it the next morning. So I have simplified, and it is possible. Now, you may not go to this extreme. You may say, but at least cut down. So globalization has overbearing on us, and global warming. It is reality. It is here, and we have to face this. And each one of us can contribute by cutting down on our consumption. And Ladakh, all across the Himalayas, there is water scarcity. The glaciers are melting at far faster pace. In Tibet, it's a permafrost land. Much of Tibet is permafrost land. Permafrost would be ice beneath the earth, the first layer of topsoil. Underneath there is this ice. If that melts, much of methane will evaporate, and this methane that is captured underneath in the permafrost will doubly add to the temperature. And we are talking about 2.5 million square kilometers of land on the Tibetan plateau. And it's not just this, Mongolia. So we are all adding to rise in the global temperature. And yes.
I'll wait for the mic.
Yes, yes. How are we doing in terms of time?
We can take one more question
One
after
more.
this.
Okay, after this, one more. Yes, yes.
So I'm returning to your narrative in your book and your beautiful poetry from these larger questions. Firstly, I wanted to thank you for laying out your story so beautifully and clearly. You have your grandmother's storytelling skills, right? But I found it very fascinating when you said that as an exile, someone who's in exile, the previous generation is looking to the past and the present generation is looking to the future. But I was wondering about the next generation, the young ones who are now born. How are they still sort of in the story of Tibet? Are they moving out? What is it like for them? And then I also wanted to comment on your poetry and say that when the story is raw, your poems have such great refinement. So thank you very much.
I think freedom is such an inspiring idea. While danger, torture may compel people to do things, but freedom is such an inspiring idea that when we nurture young people, we give them hope of freedom. I do not think I grew up thinking that we have been tortured, we have been wronged by the Chinese, we have to grow up to beat them or revenge them. I think revenge is not inspiring. What is inspiring is freedom, that we will be able to live in our own country and run it in the way we want. That freedom is so very inspiring. So generations will come, they will always be inspired. India lived in that inspiration for 200 years. And it's been 60 years only for the Tibetans. It doesn't mean that this is an excuse to let go. No. But I think freedom is so very inspiring. And I like to think and I believe that the younger generation will continue to do this. Younger generations very often are judged by the elders by saying, "Ye to jeans pehanta hai, unko Sanskriti bhasha kuch aate nahi hai." So very often this taunting from the elder generation always comes in. But I think, even if younger generation Tibetans are going to disco or wearing jeans, they can't be judged for the real content that they carry in deep in their hearts. Today, about 1 lakh Tibetans live in India, about 15,000 in Nepal, about 4,000 in Bhutan, and about 50,000 are spread in Europe, America, and Australia. About 50,000 have become citizens of those other countries. I consider this as a new strength of the Tibetan, that being citizens of those countries, today they can campaign from so many different countries. And some have taken Indian citizens also. But majority of the Tibetans still continue to work with, where's my bag? So, in India, we live with this paper called RC. This is called RC, Registration Certificate. It means you are registered to be living in India. Mr. Dasgupta, who is a former government officer, would know very, very well. So all Tibetans must have this paper. It says you are a foreigner living in India for a period of 1 year. At the end of the year, we have to renew our stay. So this was made when I was in 10th standard, and ever since I've been renewing my stay every year with this signature from the foreigners office in the Kangra district, like this. So there is a signature and the next date. Now, this means you are a foreigner living in India. You cannot vote. You cannot take any rights reserved for citizens only. Foreigner. We like to call ourselves refugees, but legally we are not refugees in India. Because India is not signatory to International Refugee Protocol and Convention of 1954 and 61. So therefore we are not even legally refugees. We are foreigners living in India for a period of 1 year. Now Government of India has made it extendable for 5 years. But if you want to travel outside of India, the government of India issues us another paper called identity certificate. Except for the yellow color, it looks like a passport. But inside where it is written citizen India, Indian, here it is diplomatically worded. Place of origin, Tibet. So it doesn't compromise on the Tibetan identity, nor does it make China angry. But with this, we can apply for visas, and some of the countries recognize this paper. They're able to travel to Europe and America and many other countries. But there are some countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, China, they don't recognize this paper, so we are not able to go to those places. I'm quite rich, I have 3 papers. You have only 1 passport, we have 3. So this one is called the Green Book. This is written in Tibetan. This one says, you are a subject of Tibetan government in exile. So His Holiness the Dalai Lama, who is now a spiritual leader, and head of the Tibetan government in exile is the president, we call Sikyong. He runs his government from Dharamshala, and so we are all subject to the Tibetan government in exile. We have this. With this, we make an annual contribution of 57 rupees towards the corpus fund of the Tibetan government in exile. This is possibly future passport of Tibet. So there are Tibetans in Europe, America, India, everywhere. Tomorrow, when we win freedom, when we go back to Tibet, they will be asked, do you have your Green Book? But there is no official recognition to this paper by any of the governments. India says it's a community's identity card. But India allows what we officially call Central Tibetan Administration, but essentially is the Tibetan government itself. So for India, the 1 lakh Tibetans living in India, His Holiness the Dalai Lama, the Tibetan government in exile, and the Karmapa, we are all a leverage against China. India officially says Tibet autonomous region is a part of People's Republic of China. That's the official stand. Earlier it used to be blanket Tibet as part of China. And from 2003 onwards, the wording has changed. It is more diplomatically worded, and perhaps also for future arsenals to say Tibet autonomous region, which is 1/3 of Tibet, is a part of People's Republic of China, founded in 1949. So India is reserved to talk about China and its future and its past. So with this wording, today, although officially that political stand, and yet there is this possible change that could happen in Tibet through the Tibetan government exile, His Holiness and the Tibetans. So for India, we are a leverage, but we would like to think that India is our shelter. We have sought refuge here, and this is how we are going to go back to Tibet one day.
And I want to correct you on one thing which you mentioned, that
Do you have a question?
Yeah.
Yes, she was raising hands.
Yeah. Talking about all the poems, it is amazing to hear you talk. What does freedom mean to you now? And to the others?
Thank you. Thank you. So, for me, freedom is not just one definition. Freedom is not just one definition. Of course, I would want Tibet to be politically free and independent one day. So that's one meaning for me. At the same time, even while here in exile, within the Tibetan community, we have elections once in five years. We elect 45 members of parliament. We elect our president, who we call Sikyong. And all of this take care of our Tibetan internal politics. And we are also dealing with government of India in certain other ways. So there is also constant expanding and constant redefining of the idea of freedom. And then, of course, as I was saying earlier, there's my personal idea of freedom, where I would want to be less dependent on the restrictions that I have placed on myself. So one of the first things that I did in my personal life is I became a vegetarian. And for a Tibetan, it's extremely difficult. Who are used to eating meat, yak meat, and sheep. I became a vegetarian. It's now 22 years ever since I become a vegetarian. So my dependency on that. And so with this, you have to discipline, you have to constantly work on it, then you are free from those other things. And another thing is how I've simplified my daily consumption. So these are, for me, freedoms in so many aspects. So at the same time, as a political activist, I'm involved in the Tibetan freedom movement. There is a political freedom to fight for. There is strategic ways of working with the different aspects of government of India, intelligence, police, in the academics. I do a lot of lectures in Indian colleges and universities. I do all the. So there are a great sense of work in that. So overall, when I say freedom, I have to see, philosophically in the Tibetan Buddhist way of thinking, we say, in order not to have the arrogance that you're going to change the world, understand that the change is going to happen if and only if all other factors would come together and bring in the magic. And with that, what we say in Hindi, dharya or dhiraj, with that great sense of patience, if we can affect that change. And until that change happens, we continue to have the faith in the hope that a better time is going to come. One is a better time in future, but most importantly, now. Freedom is now, when we are here. Free yourself from the anger, from the need to revenge, from the need of all the desires. So there are a lot of freedoms where we are fighting every day. And you don't have to have a grand freedom struggle to fight for. We all of you have your own freedom struggles to fight for in your own personal life. And how do you fight that? And sometimes, very often because of a hope, we keep on saying freedom is when in future things get better. It is not in future. Freedom is now. I would like to think that if we have to be angry and revengeful and now and working towards a possible free Tibet in future, what's the point if you spend your entire life in anger and hatred and greed? So freedom is now. Yeah. So going back to my first lessons from my teacher, where they said it is empowerment. If you empower yourself physically, mentally, emotionally balanced, and spiritually inspired, so inspired that no one will discourage you, no amount of calamity can discourage you, take your spirit out of you, that you remain inspired, you remain positive. That for me is
finally, we have to wrap up. Thank you, Tsundue, for being here and delightful as always. He didn't mention this, but Tsundue lives solely off of the earnings from his book. So, if on your way out.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, buy copies. Buy copies just for 50 rupees, and I have many copies. And your boyfriends, girlfriends would love